known for its sustainable approach to winemaking in a region where wine exports are a pillar of the economy. The King's visit forms part of the marking the three-day state visit intended to highlight the close ties between France and the United Kingdom.
For years, people have wondered about the private life of King Charles beyond the palace walls. But now, something extraordinary has come to light. The doors of King Charles's personal garage were finally opened, and what was discovered inside left onlookers stunned. Reports say it revealed a side of the monarch that had remained hidden until now. And many believe this discovery could change the way the world sees him forever. So what exactly was inside King Charles's garage? And why is it sending shockwaves across the globe? Join us as we uncover the secrets hidden behind those royal doors. Cars in the Highgrove house. One thing the royal family has never been known for is a flashy lifestyle. Even though they live in palaces and wear crowns, their personal choices have often been far more modest than people expect. Queen Elizabeth II set that tone many years ago. While other world leaders were being driven in big, expensive cars, she was often seen in something much simpler. And that was a Ford Zephyr Estate. It was a plain family car, boxy in shape and affordable at the time. For a queen, it was almost shockingly ordinary. But that was the point. Elizabeth was never interested in showing off. She cared about duty and tradition, not luxury. And that lifestyle didn't stop at the Queen. Keep watching for more. Her son, King Charles, has carried on that same spirit in his own way. People often imagine a royal garage filled with rows of shiny Bentleys and Rolls-Royces with bright lights and marble floors. But King Charles's garage is nothing like that. It is found at Highgrove House, his private home in Gloucestershire. Highgrove has always been a personal place for King Charles. It was a place where he planted gardens, experimented with organic farming, and created a retreat away from the public eye. On that estate, in what looks like an ordinary stone barn, he keeps his personal cars. From the outside, the building doesn't look special at all. Just ivy-covered walls and plain wooden doors. But what sits behind those doors tells us more about Charles than any palace room ever could. The garage holds a collection valued at around 6.3 million euros. That sounds impressive, but what makes it special is not the money. It's the meaning. Every car inside has a story, and together they show a side of the king that most people never see. One of the first cars you notice in King Charles' possession is a Land Rover Series 3 that once belonged to Prince Philip. The late Duke of Edinburgh was famous for his love of Land Rovers. He drove them across estates, through fields, and on country roads. This particular Series 3 is believed to have been one of the last he used himself before his health declined. It has not been restored or cleaned up for show. Although the green paint is faded, the seats are cracked, and the roof is slightly dented. Even the steering wheel shows the marks of years of use. It has been left exactly as Philip drove it. In that way, it feels less like a car and more like a memory frozen in time. It speaks of a man who valued hard work and practicality, and it remains in the garage as a reminder of him. But that's not all. Not far from the Land Rover, another car stands out for a very different reason. Under a gray cover sits the shape of an Aston Martin. This is the King Charles, 1969, DB6 Volante Mark III, given to Charles by Queen Elizabeth for his 21st birthday. He has kept it for over 50 years, and it is perhaps the most famous car he owns. At first, it was simply a beautiful gift, a classic sports car for a young prince. But in 2008, Charles made a surprising decision. He had the car converted to run not on petrol, but on bioethanol, a fuel made from surplus English wine and leftover whey from cheese making. The project was handled by Aston Martin engineers and Green Fuels Limited, who created a special E85 blend. The result was a classic car with a modern change. As of today, it now produced over 85% fewer carbon emissions than before. At the time, some people thought the idea was strange, but Charles stood by it. He even joked in a BBC interview that the car smells delicious when it runs. The Aston Martin has become a symbol of both his youth and his values. In his early days, Charles drove it around Cambridge while at university. Decades later, it became part of one of the most memorable royal moments in recent history. After Prince William married Kate Middleton in 2011, it was this very car that carried the couple away from Buckingham Palace. Decorated with ribbons and a just married sign, the DB6 rolled down the mall as the world cheered. Millions of viewers saw the newlyweds smile and wave from a car powered by English wine and cheese whey, a perfect mix of tradition and Charles's passion for sustainability. To show how much King Charles loved the Aston Martin his mother gave him, he made a move that shocked everyone at the palace. He decided to get 2 extra Aston Martins of his own. The first was the Aston Martin Vive 8 Volante, and the second was the Aston Martin Virage Volante. Together, these cars proved his loyalty to the brand and showed that his mother's gift had started something far bigger than anyone expected. The Vive 8 Volante came into his life in 1977. Painted in Seychelles blue, just like the DB6 from his mother, it carried a bold presence. The car was fast, elegant, and very different from the ordinary vehicles people often saw the royal family using. For many inside the palace, it seemed unnecessary, maybe even unwise. Why would Charles need another Aston Martin when he already had one so special? But Charles was not thinking about need. He was following admiration. The V8 Volante became one of the cars he drove most often. It was a convertible, with soft leather seats and a strong V8 engine that gave it power on the open road. Charles liked to drive himself, and this car suited him perfectly. He was photographed many times in it during the late 1970s and 1980s, sometimes with the roof down, enjoying the fresh air. To him, the V8 was not just a car, it was an expression of freedom and style, a continuation of the love affair that had started with his mother's DB6. Years later, King Charles repeated the pattern. In 1994, he bought another Aston Martin, the Virage Volante. This time, the car was painted in deep British racing green. Unlike the bold character of the V8, the Virage was more refined, a car that reflected a mature stage of his life. By then, Charles was no longer the young prince of the 1970s. He was a man in his 40s with more responsibilities and a clearer sense of his place in the royal family. The Virage was the perfect fit, modern, comfortable, and still proudly British. Again, people wondered if adding another Aston was really wise. After all, Charles already had 2 of them by then, including the cherished DB6 he had kept since his youth. But this was not about collecting cars for show. It was about loyalty. Every Aston Martin he owned carried meaning. The DB6 was his mother's gift. The V8 was his own statement of style. And the Virage was the mature choice of a man who valued tradition, but was not afraid to adapt. Together, the 3 Aston Martins told a story. They were not random purchases, but chapters in his life. The DB6 was the beginning, the car that introduced him to the brand and carried his memories of youth. The V8 Volante was bold and adventurous, the car of a prince testing his own independence. The Virage Volante was calm and confident, a car for a man who knew who he was. When people step into his garage at Highgrove, it is these Astons that stand out first. Covered carefully, waiting in line, they are not just symbols of wealth. They are symbols of love, loyalty, and a lifetime of connection between one man and one brand. Charles may have shocked the palace by adding to his mother's gift, but those decisions created a collection that still defines his garage today. But the garage at Highgrove holds more than just these two brands of cars. Reports say there are other vehicles too: electric cars, work vans, and even a few that seem out of place for a king. They are not flashy, and they do not scream wealth. Instead, they fit into the same pattern: practical choices, often linked to sustainability or personal history. It is what makes the collection so interesting. It is not about showing off. It is about showing who Charles is. So which other cars can we find in this garage? Stick around to find out. Prince Charles Special Cars. One of the cars in King Charles's possession that has gotten lots of people talking is the MG CGT. This two-door British sports car was the first vehicle he ever bought for himself. Back in 1968, Charles was still a student at Cambridge University. He wanted a car that was fun to drive, simple and practical. So, to achieve that, he didn't go for a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley like many would expect from a prince. Instead, he chose something modest and accessible, a car that felt like it belonged on the streets of Cambridge rather than in a palace garage. The MG CGT had a strong 6-cylinder engine and a hatchback design, which made it sporty yet practical. Charles loved driving it himself, enjoying the freedom of going wherever he wanted without a chauffeur. Many people were surprised to see a young royal behind the wheel of such a small car, blending in with other drivers. For Charles, it was about independence and fun, not about showing off wealth or status. That first MG stayed with him for years and later became a symbol of his youth. When Charles moved on to larger and more luxurious cars, King Charles MG was preserved and is now displayed at the British Motor Museum. Visitors can see it and imagine a young prince driving along country roads, learning to navigate life behind the wheel of his own modest car. It may have been small and unassuming, but it told a story of a young man who valued freedom and responsibility even before he fully stepped into royal life. Another car that draws attention is the King Charles Bentley State Limousine, a vehicle that contrasts sharply with the modest MG. This car was one of only 2 ever made, and it was gifted to Queen Elizabeth II by Bentley in 2002 for her Golden Jubilee. It was massive, armored and bulletproof, designed to carry royalty safely during public appearances. Unlike the MG, it was never about personal enjoyment or speed. Instead, it represented duty, tradition, and visibility. Charles inherited its use alongside his mother and often appeared in it during formal events. The limousine is tall and long, with large windows so the royal passenger can be seen by the public. Yet even in such a grand car, Charles' personality showed. Observers often remarked that he looked relaxed and approachable, waving gently to crowds. The Bentley was a reminder that being a royal is not just about personal preference. It is about presence, ceremony, and carrying history wherever you go. For Charles, it represented the responsibilities of the crown, balancing practicality with dignity. Then there is the Audi A6 All-Road Quattro, a surprising choice that shows another side of Charles's taste. Unlike the MG or the Bentley, this car was designed for modern practicality rather than tradition or luxury. Charles has been photographed in this vehicle driving across the countryside near Highgrove. The A6 All-Road is a sturdy, all-wheel drive car with enough space for luggage and passengers. It reflects his love for outdoor life and his interest in having cars that can handle different terrains. The Audi is especially interesting because it is German, not British. This surprised many royal watchers who expected him to choose only British brands. Yet, Charles didn't hesitate. He appreciated the car's reliability, performance, and comfort. It is quiet, smooth, and efficient, everything a modern vehicle should be. While it lacks the history or fanfare of the MG or Bentley, it tells another story, that Charles values function as much as tradition. He does not choose cars just for appearances. He chooses ones that suit his needs. And here comes the car that will blow your mind. Another car in King Charles's collection that has captured attention is the Jaguar XJ Sovereign. Unlike his MG CGT, which represented youth and independence, or the Bentley State Limousine, which embodied duty and ceremony, the Jaguar is a perfect example of British craftsmanship and understated elegance. Charles has owned several versions over the years, often choosing models in dark, traditional colors that complement the car's sleek and stately design. The Jaguar XJ Sovereign is not flashy. It is designed for comfort, reliability, and quiet sophistication. It has a powerful inline-6 or V12 engine, smooth handling, and a spacious interior fitted with high-quality leather and wood trim. Charles appreciated the car for its balance between performance and practicality, allowing him to drive comfortably across the countryside or to official events without drawing unnecessary attention. What makes this car particularly interesting is how it reflects Charles's personality. He prefers vehicles that are functional, yet elegant, modern, yet timeless. The Jaguar XJ Sovereign fits this perfectly. It is luxurious, but not ostentatious. It shows that he values quality and craftsmanship over showiness. Unlike some royal cars built purely for display, the Jaguar is meant to be driven, enjoyed, and experienced, something Charles has always done with care and attention. The XJ Sovereign also demonstrates his loyalty to British automotive brands. While King Charles has occasionally used German cars like the Audi A6 All-Road, his preference for homegrown vehicles shows his connection to British heritage. The Jaguar rounds out his garage as a car that is practical, prestigious, and personal, a vehicle that embodies the quiet dignity of a king who values tradition, quality, and thoughtful choice. These four vehicles, the MG CGT, the Bentley State Limousine, the Audi A6 All-Road, and the Jaguar XJ Sovereign, show different sides of King Charles. The MG reflects his youth, independence, and modest choices. The Bentley represents duty, ceremony, and tradition. The Audi demonstrates practicality, modern thinking, and a focus on efficiency over brand loyalty. The Jaguar highlights his appreciation for British craftsmanship and quiet elegance. Charles's garage is not flashy or showy. Each car is chosen with care, reflecting his personality at different stages of life: student, prince, and king. Visitors to Highgrove note the garage's quiet character. No gold trims or decorations, just cars arranged thoughtfully, each telling part of his story. The collection shows Charles is defined not by wealth, but by thoughtfulness, careful choice, and personal connection. Yet despite all of the expensive cars, King Charles bought a car in 2025. Which car was it? Stay with us, because this adds a new twist to the story. The 2025 purchase and the legacy behind the cars. When the year 2025 came, to many it seemed like the end of an era for King Charles. News had spread of his cancer diagnosis, and the public expected him to slow down, to retreat from his busy life. But just when everyone thought he would back down, King Charles made a surprising move. He purchased a Lotus Electra, a high-performance electric SUV that stunned both car enthusiasts and royal watchers alike. The Lotus Electra is no ordinary car. Fully electric, it combines luxury with cutting-edge technology. It has a 280-mile range, dual motors producing 905 horsepower, and can accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. For many, this was a shocking choice for a king facing health challenges, but for Charles, it was a statement. He wanted a car that reflected his values: innovation, sustainability, and British engineering at its finest. The vehicle was customized in royal claret, a deep, regal red, making it instantly recognizable as a royal car. It was not just about looks, though. The Eletre represents a shift in the monarchy's approach to transportation, aligning with the UK's environmental goals, such as the ban on new petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030. Charles has long been an advocate for sustainability, and this purchase shows that even in difficult times, he remains committed to leading by example. Observers note that the Eletre blends performance and practicality. Unlike older models like the biofuel Aston Martin DB6 or the classic MG CGT, the Lotus is futuristic, efficient, and ready for modern roads. It also sends a message. King Charles will not be constrained by expectation or circumstance. He continues to embrace life on his terms, combining duty with personal passion. The purchase also adds a new layer to the story of Charles's garage. For decades, it has reflected his personality and priorities, from youthful independence with the MG to ceremonial duty in the Bentley, practical modernity in the Audi, and quiet elegance in the Jaguar. Now, the Lotus Eletre stands as a symbol of resilience, progress, and forward-thinking leadership. Even facing personal challenges, Charles chose innovation and sustainability, reinforcing his reputation as a king who acts with purpose. In 2025, then, Charles did more than buy a car. He made a statement. The Lotus Eletre is not just a machine, it is a continuation of a lifelong story, one that combines heritage, technology, and personal vision. It shows that the monarch remains fully engaged, determined, and unafraid to make bold choices, even in the face of adversity. And here comes the shocker. With the purchase of all these cars, royal watchers began to dig deep to understand why King Charles bought them. What they uncovered was surprising. It wasn't for show or fun. There was a purpose behind every choice, a purpose that could be traced back decades. The story goes back to the 1970s, when Charles was trying to set up the Prince's Trust, a charity aimed at helping young people facing difficulties. At the time, the royal family had no large personal wealth to donate freely, and Charles needed creative ways to fund the organization. One of the methods he used was selling personal cars from his private collection. For example, in 1995, Charles sold a state-owned Aston Martin DB6 Volante at Sotheby's for €110,000. Instead of keeping the money, he donated all proceeds to the Prince's Trust. It was a bold decision because the car was not just valuable, it was a part of his personal history. The gesture showed that for Charles, cars were more than possessions. They were tools to make a difference. And even more shocking was how King Charles used his cars to promote environmental causes. Long before electric vehicles became common, Charles embraced eco-friendly technology. In 2018, he became the first member of the British royal family to own a fully electric vehicle, the Jaguar I-Pace. He even installed a charging point at Clarence House, showing his commitment to reducing carbon emissions. Later, he was seen driving a Tesla Model S, reinforcing that he was serious about green mobility. His choices were not just personal. During important royal events, he used electric vehicles, sending a message about sustainability to the public. Even some of the royal Bentley cars are being converted to run on biofuels, reflecting his long-term goal of transitioning the royal fleet to cleaner energy. Through these actions, King Charles showed that his cars are more than luxury or status symbols. They are tools to inspire change. Just as he sold cars to fund the Prince's Trust decades ago, today he uses them to advance environmental causes. Every vehicle in his collection, whether classic, modern, or electric, carries meaning. They reflect his values, his history, and his dedication to making a difference. From funding youth programs to promoting sustainability, Charles's garage is a legacy of thoughtfulness and purpose. It demonstrates that for him, cars are never just for fun. They're a way to leave a lasting, positive impact on society. Which of these cars do you think best represents King Charles? And which part of his story impressed you most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Click the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss it.